let's get going. So welcome to Yellowdig Client Office Hours for January. We're happy to have you here, and this is effectively your time. We will spend a little time talking about some resources for you and some exciting new features in the platform, but we just really want you to be able to ask your questions here, and some of you submitted them in advance, so we'll also share those. If you do have a question, I think the best way for you to submit that question is, if you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A button on your little Zoom bar. And that's probably the best way to submit a question. If you accidentally put one in chat, we'll survive and we'll make sure that we manage that too. But just for convenience sake, placing them in the Q&A would probably be the best thing to do. I think we should probably start with introductions. How about you, Brian? So, and with that, I'm going to say, who the heck are you? What are you doing here, man?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Yellowdig's VP of Academic Product Engagement. What that means in practice is that I spend a lot of time supporting the platform, doing research on the platform, working with our instructors. But I do oversee the support side of things, and have also done most of the research on the platform. So I try to answer questions in this forum based on what I know from those two different experiences. My background is all in psychology and education. Got my PhD from Vanderbilt and did a postdoc at the University of Delaware. Been working with Yellowdig for about 3.5 years now. So I think I've seen and done most of it at this point, as far as things in the platform, seeing different kinds of communities and things like that.
All right, thanks, Brian. I'm Bob Urtischek. I'm Yellowdig's Senior Community Success Consultant, and I've been with Yellowdig almost 2 years, just a few days, and it'll be 2 years. I'm so excited. Anyway, love it here, by the way. I come from a higher education background. Before the turn of the century, I transitioned from a law career and moved into some teaching in higher education in around 2001. After doing that for a little bit, I took a role as an instructional technologist, faculty developer, helping instructors put their courses online, whether it was a distance format or even back then, 20 plus years ago, starting to think about blended courses, bringing elements of a course from online into face-to-face courses as well. And while I really was excited by the power of online learning, I didn't think that it was living up to its potential. The tools and the pedagogy didn't support the rich student engagement and learning community that I was hoping to find. So I went back to teaching for over a decade. I taught political science. And in my own courses, I tried all kinds of crazy experiments outside of the learning management system tools to grow that community and expand my students' voice. And they all came with their own unique set of problems that were not wonderful. And so when I found Yellowdig, it was really what I had been looking for all those years. And now I'm really happy to work with you to support your use and to get the most out of it. So that being said, let's jump in. If I can make the slide go. There we go. Brian, people ask me all the time, Bob, I have a question about Yellowdig, where and how to use it or use a feature. What should I do? So I'm going to ask you the same question, Brian. Where would I go?
Yeah, so our knowledge base is something we've been working really hard on and to keep updated as the platform grows and is added to. So that's available at help.yellowdig.co. There is no M on that, so just make sure that you leave it off. And you can find that through any web browser. But we also have an in-platform version of that knowledge base. So if you happen to be in Yellowdig and have a question, you can go to the question mark at the bottom left. There's a whole bunch of sort of suggested articles and things there. You can search at the top. And if you're not finding what you're looking for, there's a contact us button at the bottom of that as well. And there's also in the regular knowledge base page a contact us button at the top right. So I usually actually just recommend sort of bookmarking help.yellowdig.co. And then if you ever do need to reach out to us, there's a button right there.
Brian, I heard you talking about the percentage of people who come into the knowledge base looking for help, and the percentage of people who, after that, not finding what they want, come to us. And what is that percentage of people who are satisfied and finding what they want after coming initially?
Yes, yeah. So of the people that do searches in our knowledge base, 99% never contact support. And we've been finding that's a good resource for them and for us in terms of kind of making sure that we're helping with problems that are problems, but that they're finding the information they really need right in those articles.
Yeah, so the bottom line is we really strongly encourage you to go there because it'll probably be the best use of your time. It'll be the quickest way for you to find the answers you're looking for. Second thing is that we have some courses that can help you sort of get your head around Yellowdig if you're new to it or if you want a refresher in our basic pedagogy and platform. And you can find those at learn.yellowdig.co. That instructor course, it only takes about an hour, a little bit less, and all of those courses are under that threshold. They're self-guided. You can proceed at your own pace, but they really do a good job of getting you up to speed and sort of a decent overview of Yellowdig itself. So we strongly encourage you to take those. Beyond that, we have even more. First of all, if you want to talk about your individual course, if you're looking for ways to use Yellowdig in your individual course, or you've started using Yellowdig, and you perhaps have some questions about how you can improve your implementation or ideas, I would be happy to talk to you. Just let me know, bob@yellowdig.com. And again, on the right, we can see that link to the instructor course that I mentioned before. And if you want to use that little QR code, you can nab it that way, or you can just go to learn.yellowdig.co. And then we have some other things, and we want to be clear about support, because we want to make sure that you get everything that you need. And so when people have technical issues, that's sort of a different question a little bit in a way. It's different than the pedagogical questions that people might have about Yellowdig. So Brian, what would you recommend for technical issues that arise from time to time?
Yeah, so I already pointed out the couple of buttons on the knowledge base, but if you do have any technical problems, you can also just email directly to support@yellowdig.com. And one of the things that we sometimes see is students will reach out to instructors, and with an access issue or something. A lot of times those issues are actually specific to the student due to a browser setting or something like that. So we often recommend that instructors really just tell students to reach out directly to us if they're having some type of support, technical issue, because first of all, we can help the individual students a lot faster. It'll prevent it from ever ending up in your inbox as well. And at the end of the day, we know how to fix those problems or solve them. In terms of getting those settings updated for the student a lot faster than you will. And also, if there is actually a problem, we can find it and fix it on our end a lot faster if there is an outage or something like that, if students are actually contacting us directly. So
yeah, I would just add that you don't need to be the middleman. We'll help you with that. And oftentimes when instructors try to be the middleman, they don't have the information about what the student's issue is per se, and it requires just a lot more interaction, and we want to save you that trouble. So, and of course, if you have a technical issue, you're welcome to contact us too through those methods that Brian mentioned. We already talked about the knowledge base. You're sitting in our monthly office hours. We have scheduled them for once every month, opportunities for you to ask us whatever you want to ask us. And as you probably, if you've been here before, you also know that we generally end up talking about things that are new in Yellowdig at that particular time. So it's a great way to keep yourself up to date. Also, listening to other people's questions can be helpful too, even if you don't have any of your own. And then finally, the YISC, the Yellowdig Instructor Support Community. You can join that. And we have instructors, instructional designers, people using Yellowdig from all over the world who are in there sharing their thoughts, their best practices, asking their questions. We also post content and ideas in there as well. And we welcome you to jump in there. And you can use that little link right there, yellowdig.app/share/YISC, YISC/ICC, and you'll be able to get in there. and join us. So we hope you'll be there for us. You'll be there with us. All right, so here's the fun part. This is what's new in Yellowdig. We've made a bunch of changes recently, Brian, and improvements, I would actually call them. Let's talk about them a little bit. What's that first thing I think is something that's going to apply to most everybody and is really going to help you and your students sort of keep track of where you are. Can you tell us a little bit about the new point communication widget and modal?
Yeah, so I imagine most of you have seen this. It was released during the winter break, but some of the reasoning behind adding it here on the left-hand side um, uh, is to make sure that we're communicating to students, how many points they currently have compared to the total for the course. So that's that first points earned area. In reality, Yellowdig is this sort of single semester long participation requirement for most courses. So we wanted to show their progress towards that total overall goal. We also have a notion of sort of a weekly pace, weekly number of points that students need to get to stay on pace. So we're also showing, how many points they've earned in the current period. And then to just really clarify everything in the simplest terms, we added a notification area at the bottom. If the student is on pace to get to that goal at the end of the course, and they've earned all the points they can for the current week, it'll say they're doing a great job. If they're falling a little bit behind for the week or for the semester, it'll give them additional messages telling them how many points they can still earn and by what specific time. So between those three things, we think students have been understanding the point communications a lot better. And then if for whatever reason they still have additional questions or want to see a log of all of their activity, we have that show details area, and we can show that in the platform. But it really tried to kind of bring all of the point information with really clear directions into one area, and that show details area will really give you quite a lot of additional.
And you will be able to see all that student information. They'll obviously only be able to see their individual information, but you'll be able to see all of the students' information and be able to keep track of them. And the great thing is that there should never be a discrepancy between what you think their points earned are and what they think their points earned are, because it's all written there in whatever color it might be. I was going to say black and white, but it's not necessarily black and white. So, and again, if you have further questions about that, we'd be happy to show you that in the platform when we get there. Oops. The next thing is drafts. And we're not talking about the wind here. What are we talking about, Brian?
Yeah, so we recently released an improvement to our drafts feature that works a lot like Gmail's model for drafts, which is basically as you're composing a post, if you post it, or I should say, as you're composing a post, it saves it in the drafts. If you post it, the draft will sort of disappear from the draft area. If you close the post or close your window, it saves and leaves the draft there for you to post later. It also saves it to the cloud. So if you open it in a new device, you'll be able to see your posts to possibly post them later with your phone or something versus a post that you created on your.
And again, we can sort of share that in the platform, how that works. You can save multiple drafts. And the way you save a draft is simply, instead of clicking post, you click the X that would move that to the draft folder. We'll show that if you want. Also new is bookmarks, and these are probably exactly what you think they are. They're a little star that you'll see under every post, and if you click on that post or that comment, you'll have that saved for yourself, where you can easily access by clicking in the bookmark area that we'll share too. Some other things that probably require a little bit more talk is the topics without points. There's a number of adjustments you can make to topics to get better results out of them, including disabling them or toggling on or off the points that they earn. And again, we can show that as well. Also coming soon, at community and at admins mentions. Brian, you want to share a little about those?
Yeah, so this is just a way for the instructional team to be able to send an at community notification to everybody in the community. So works exactly the same as our @mentions of individual students. It'll just dispatch a similar notification to all students in the class at the same time. There's also going to be an @admins tag, which would alert every one of the members of an instructional team. In case you have a sort of bigger instructional team with a lot of TAs or something like that, you can have students use the @admins if you want them to be able to call attention to everybody in the that's an admin of that community.
Hey, Brian, so students can go in there and type @community and get everyone's attention?
Yeah, so it's going to block that functionality so that students can't do it. It'll be optional. So yeah, we were worried that students would just @community everybody on every post if they thought they could get more points by getting more attention on their posts.
So they can't, which I think is the right way to do it. Moving on, and when are those? They're coming soon. Hopefully,
Yeah,
there'll be an announcement in the product.
Yeah, it's from I just found out in a meeting earlier, so I know that the code is under review currently to be released. So I don't think it should be more than another week or two.
Fantastic. And finally, this is a back end thing, but I think it's relatively important for you to know as instructors who are using Yellowdig right now. You're setting up Yellowdig, generally speaking, by creating a single assignment in your learning management system, which enables the students to be populated into your course and then to enable the grade passback. And students need to click on that individual link to get that. And that's because we are using Yellowdig connects with your learning management system through a standard called LTI, Learning Tool Interoperability. And most implementations are currently on LTI 1.1, which requires this sort of use. Can you tell us a little about 1.3 and what it'll offer?
Yeah, so LTI 1.3 allows us to do some really interesting things with roster management, the assignment setup, additional group management capabilities, and some of these are actually still currently expanding in the LTI 1.3 spec. So we want to get quite a few universities over to LTI 1.3 as we're able to do that, because it has a number of security enhancements, but it's also going to let us do some things that we haven't been able to do with our platform that we've wanted to, passing through groups from Canvas. You can set up an assignment directly. Students, as Bob mentioned, won't have to click through an assignment link, a specific assignment link, as they currently do. So we think it'll have a number of really good enhancements in there. The only thing is we do have to work with your IT in order to enable that configuration, in order to make these LTI improvements available to you. So certainly if you're using Yellowdig and you want to talk with us and hook us up with your IT people, we're open to discussing how we can get as many of our clients over.
I was just going to say it's currently available for Canvas. You're probably not going to want to do it mid-semester, but we are going to be also enabling it for some of our other, some of our other learning management systems as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah, as long as those systems use the LTI 1.3 spec, it shouldn't be hard to make sure that they're working with other learning management systems. So, our hope is the beta version works pretty good right now, but there may be some additional testing we need to do with those.
So I was going to suggest that we go into the platform now. We could show some of these things and start responding to some questions. Sound good, Brian?
Yeah, I think that's good.
All right.
So certainly, if you have any questions that are burning right now, you can drop them into the Q&A and we'll try to answer them. I know we had a couple of questions pop up.
We did? Oh, yeah.
No. Sorry, pop up before the session. So I want to make sure that we get to that at least. So the first question was really about student posts not loading or disappearing in our system, and to my knowledge, we haven't had huge problems in production, that would result in that. One thing we are seeing with the draft functionality, though, is a misunderstanding with some students. So I do want to just talk through that because I think it might be leading to some of the reports around posts disappearing. So one thing that I guess is worthwhile talking through just a little bit is as a little bit nerdy stuff about how our system works on the back end. But we use a transactional database system, which means that each time data is added to our database, there's no notion of deleting data. So as we update things in our system, it honors a newer transaction in some cases, but data is never deleted from our system, which means that if we get a post, and it's submitted to our database, it's almost impossible for it to get deleted. There may be reasons that it might not appear in a specific community under certain circumstances, but it's almost impossible for a post to get posted, appear in the feed, and then literally disappear or lose points just because of the way the system is built. So what we see happening a little bit is students doing what Bob did, creating a post. You can see the draft gets updated as he adds changes to the post, and it will continue to update as he's typing or whatever. But a lot of times when we've been investigating issues with lost posts in our support queue, we've been going into the community, logging in as the student, and we've been able to find a draft that is completed, that looks completed in the drafts area. And we think what is happening is students are just navigating away from the draft, either by closing a tab or whatever, and never pressing the submit button.
So if I saw the submit post button and I either intentionally or accidentally click that close editor, what's going to happen when I do that?
Yeah, so if you hit close editor, the system will do one final save of the draft, and it will put it into drafts. Or if you were to close the window for Yellowdig or whatever and just completely leave it, it will leave the last autosave there, right? So the fact that we're finding a lot of times missing posts in the drafts area that look completed suggests to us that a lot of the students are just not submitting the post. And they say they're losing points, but the post was just never submitted. So the other thing that happens, if they had submitted the post and it had been put into the feed, we would have a transaction of that as a post. So that would be one thing that I would suggest. If a student says that they're missing a post or whatever, have them check the drafts, because as soon as we tell people that, a lot of times they do find them there.
So yes, I mean they're all right here, and as a practical matter, if you it's very useful if you want to, if you're a student and you're starting a post and you want to come back to it because something came up or you want to think a little bit more about it, you can save that post as a draft and then simply just go back to edit and post and then click, instead of the X, submit it. You can do this with any number of posts, and students can as well.
And we've been talking about posts. I always talk about posts as posts or comments, but it will work for comments. So the drafting also works. If you start to comment on somebody else's posts, it'll save those and it'll show up with a reference to that specific comment.
So if your students are asking that, if they're saying that they're not seeing posts, I mean, that's another option for them to reach out to our support team, because our support team can diagnose that. But if you want to just intuit that maybe this is the issue, just have them look at their drafts folder if they come to you about that. But I think the other piece of that puzzle might be talking about how you as instructors can see exactly what students have done. And so if a student says my post isn't there, well, there are a number of ways that you can on your own decide whether that's true or not, or if students are saying that they're not earning points for a particular reason. There are a number of ways that you can check that as well. Not that we want to put you in the middle of that, but just for your own, sort of thought process. And so one way that you can do that for all of your students is by going under data and clicking reports. Now, obviously, at least I hope it's obvious, students don't have this functionality. This is your ability to see all of your students and what they've earned in descending order from most points earned to least. So that's good at a glance. But then when we go into, let's click this show log button, we're going to have the ability to see exactly what students see as far as their own progress and what they've earned. So in this case, this particular student in period 16, which I want to look at, which is one of the more recent periods. And again, this is a demo community, so it's not particularly active, but you can see when I clicked on view participation, and then I scroll down till I get to this view of the participation log, and I can see exactly what those students got points for and what they didn't. I can see this comment, and I could click on this comment. It would take me right to that comment. Tells me how many words they wrote. If the student had written 19 words instead of 20 words, it would still be registered here. But what would it show here, Brian, instead of the 210?
Yeah, it would just show 0 points.
It would show 0 points. So that's one way. And then the other thing that I think gets thrown in here that I can't show you on this particular student's view is the weekly maximum, which sometimes students don't fully understand why they may not be earning points for a post or comment they did. You want to talk about that a little bit, Brian?
Yeah, so you when you're setting up the point system, you set up a target per period, which we then just sort of multiply in order to get to the total point goal. And you'll also set a buffer, which determines how many total points a student can get in any given week. So as students are hitting that maximum, that log will start to show, hey, you're at your maximum. And anytime a student is not awarded points, there's kind of a little warning there about why that didn't happen. But it's a great place to go and check to see what students are doing and whether they didn't earn points or why, if they have any specific questions about that. It's really easy for students to see that in the show details area as well. So, I would direct them there if they have any questions.
Right. This is the view for that particular student where they can see what you saw in the points report. So I would direct them there. And by the way, if they exceed the weekly maximum points that they can earn, those posts and comments will still be reflected here in this log, but they will say no points, weekly max reached, and it should be pretty clear as to why, because and by the way, this is not designed to stop students from participating. In fact, it's really designed to just get them back in regularly. They can continue to participate. Many students go far over their point values in the required point values in their communities once they feel like they're getting value out of the community and that it's working. It's providing the information that they need.
One thing that's probably worth quickly mentioning there is, if the activity is outside of the earning periods, it's before the point earning started or before it ended, it doesn't show in the log. If a student happens to get access to the community before the course starts and starts posting, there's a bunch of things in the platform that should tell them that they're not earning points, but it wouldn't show up in the log because it's not within this sort of point earning window.
So if the person who initially asked that question about not seeing posts and comments is here and they want to, hopefully that did a decent job of answering your question. If not, again, we would encourage you very highly to go to support. And again, just to show what Brian showed earlier, and feel free to weigh in the chat if you want about that, our response to that question. But if your student or if you are feeling that, as we mentioned, support yellowdig.com, and as Brian mentioned in the previous part, this little question mark gets you to there. But I just wanted to show you one thing that wasn't there in that slide is that you can just scroll down to contact us by mail, and this will ask all the questions that we need to know to properly diagnose the issue. It's really the best way to submit a ticket or probably to have your students submit a ticket. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Again, just want to remind you, you're free to ask any questions you have in the Q&A. A couple things that are also new that we didn't really point out is that there's an announcement box here for any kinds of improvements that we make to the platform. This is probably the best place for you to find out what they are and to learn a little bit more about them. Of all the new features, topics without points is certainly one of the most important changes to the platform. Shall we talk about that, Brian? Do you think? Should we talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, if there are any, again, if there are any questions, definitely please throw them in there. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, we can definitely, talk through some of the things that we think are questions that we've heard as questions about other parts of the app. And I think, talking about the topics without points is a good
Right.
place.
This is your time. We certainly want to respond to you, but we understand that sometimes people just want some information as well. And people come to these just sort of to listen to the other people the questions are answering to sort of get their juices running. So these topics, hopefully you all know that topics are really important in Yellowdig and shaping the conversations you want your students to be having related to the course materials. And so while we provide a number of default topics, like 4 or 5 or 6 default topics that you can use, they're really more for organizational pieces as opposed to getting the course concept pieces of the conversation set up. So when you set up your community, whether it's by going through the community startup, which you may have done, or going to settings and topics, when you get to topics, you can create your own topics that are relevant to your course. And we would strongly urge you to go beyond the several topics that we've suggested and make them relevant to your community. In fact, this is one of the most important things you can do as you're setting up your course or as your course is going on to really create good conversations. And as you can see from these topics, we're using the actual words related to whatever those course concepts are, as opposed to using week 1 or module 2 or chapter 3 or anything like that in the topics, because these topic tags are filters. They're designed to help you jump back into conversations or your students to jump back into conversations and to continue them when they become relevant or important. They're fundamental to really getting the most out of Yellowdig and giving students the agency to find what's important to them and ask those questions that they're looking to ask for. So to create a new topic, as I'm sure you may know, you type some words. Let's see. I can't think of any words right now, Brian, but a course concept. This is your CogSci. You got another one you can
Yeah, I don't know. Cognitive psychology.
Okay.
But that's the whole
right.
Whole
So let's suppose we were going to talk about American government, because that's what I taught. We're going to go with civil liberties. It doesn't fit here, but I'll get yelled at later for that. Anyway, so I'm going to click submit, and the topic moves down to the very bottom. I don't like it there, Brian. I want my students to see that topic. They'll only see the top 6 topics of all the ones I create. So how am I going to get them to focus on that topic?
Yeah, so if you want students to focus on any topic, you can put it at the top of the selection window. So when students are actually creating posts, they will see the topics to select from in the order that you place them here. So if you want students to see civil liberties and maybe not behavior change, you could adjust where they show up in the list, which will make it more likely that students are going to use those specific topics.
So Brian, how do you feel about this? Let's suppose I have a course, and I certainly want my students to have the freedom to talk about all the concepts in the course that we're covering. However, I sort of feel like, you know what, in week 1 or 2, I don't really want them talking about those advanced topics. I want to sort of save those for later. I'm happy to share the synthesis of how how early learning, scaffolds to what we're learning later, and make that connection between that early topic like extrinsic motivation, and then later that later topic like behavioral change. So do you have any suggestions about how I might organize or implement topics related to that?
Yeah, so if you really don't want students to be able to use the topics, you can either just not create them until you need them, or you can specifically disable them entirely, which will make sure um, that they're there, and you can just one click to make them available. But uh, those are the two options as far as not wanting those more advanced topics to come up. Um, I think in general, best practices, we think it's good that students have the ability to talk about mixed things across the course, certainly have the ability to talk about more than one topic at a time so they can blend these things together. I always like to say that one of the real benefits of conversations is the ability of students to play with different ideas and blend them together and mix them together in ways that just don't happen if you're focused on a single topic, like you might be in other parts of your course. Those other parts of your course can be hyper focused. I think one of the things that interactions really add to a course is the blending together of your topics, and of course, your course probably has an overall topic that you want students to learn, everything about. The other thing that you can do, which is kind of the new feature addition, really, is to disable points for a specific topic. So you can make the topic enabled. People will be able to select it, but they just won't earn points for it. And there's all kinds of reasons you might want to do that. We have here an example. We call it Fireside Chat. Other people have called it Coffee House or
Student lounge or
student lounge. But the concept is definitely that students can kind of share anything they might want to talk about there, and just not earn points for it, which we think is a good way to get and keep students interested in the community, and having some fun conversations without being all serious. I like to always say, most business meetings start with 5 minutes of small talk, which helps you, be more productive in meetings and things like that too. So, um,
I want to add some other thoughts on the no point topics. Um, so having students, one thing that we generally like to encourage is for instructors to tell students at the outset of the course, and we'll get into this a little bit more too, that they should submit all of their questions in Yellowdig related to the course, and then go ahead and also try to answer your peers' questions. And this is important for a couple of reasons, at least a few reasons. First of all, students are going to feel the freedom and the safety to ask those questions here. But when a student tries to answer another student's question, first of all, that's a really good learning process for the student who's doing the answering. First of all, they have to think they understand the question. Second of all, they have to think they understand, think they know the answer. And third, they have to effectively communicate that answer to their peers, which is a great learning process. And plus, they, when they're in Yellowdig and they can earn points for various behaviors. So why then, Brian, have I turned off points for question and answer or question in this case?
yeah. So in this case, I think, based on you answering this question before, no, we want students to ask questions for sure. And again, all the reasons that Bob said. But we also want them to properly categorize the question as being about a specific topic, right? So if you can imagine every student using the Q&A topic throughout the course, uh, the students wouldn't be able to filter by the other topics in order to determine which topic that's by. So here Bob has suggested that you turn off the points for Q&A, and then when students actually answer or actually add the topic that the question is about, they'll be able to earn points from that topic that is point enabled. So the way that the point earning works is that you just have to have one point enabled topic on the post in order for it to earn those points.
So if I'm a student and I do that question and answer, I can see that there's no points there, but it's still a question, and it's still important that we tag it with question so that everyone can find those questions and try to answer them. But what's going to make a difference to the students is, oh, you know what? If I add this tag to it as well, now I'm going to get points for it. You'll notice the little counter came back up and it doesn't say no points anymore. So this is a great way to, as Brian said, to be able to focus on the material, but still identify it as a question that people can answer. So I think that's a valuable way to do that. I would probably do the same thing with breaking news and need help topic as well, with most of our topics that we provide you with. And again, these are toggle switches, so you can turn them on and off as you desire students to earn or not earn points for those. And one just real brief example is for introductions. I would enable it for the first week or two because it's a great way to get students used to using Yellowdig, a great way for them to sort of know who else is in the community and what their sort of, what their experiences are and why they're in the community or anything else relevant about them, just to feel like a real person there. But after the second week, I would probably turn off. I would disable, I wouldn't delete, but I would disable that introductions topic because I don't want students to interact on that anymore. I want them to get their points through course relevant conversations. And I would enable that fireside chat as well as no points, so students can still continue to have those conversations. They just can't get points for them. All right, so we've got about 15 minutes left, so happy to take any other questions that anyone might have. And what was the other thing that we were just talking about sharing? The getting started, the setting up for the, when you start a Yellowdig community, and you're relatively early in your Yellowdig community. So another thing that's pretty important is setting expectations for your students, letting them know, and you can do this at any point, especially even now or as early as possible, letting them know, why are we having this Yellowdig community? Why is it important to the course? Also, it's important to let them know what your role in that community is going to be. And finally, letting them know what you're expecting of them. All of these things will go a great way for reducing sort of friction and for them understanding what you're expecting from them in Yellowdig and what they should expect from you. So we often recommend that instructors record a brief video, and you can do this at any point in the platform. As you can see, I'm in front of a green screen, so I'm embarrassed. But basically, you have 90 seconds here to record a video for that or any other purpose. And it's a great opportunity for you to sort of set the tone for what students should expect. And we have a script that we have in our knowledge base that maybe, Brian, you could share in the chat so for people to take a look at that.
I'll get right to it.
And while he's doing that, I would basically say something like the following. Hey, everybody, welcome to our Yellowdig community. The purpose of this community is for us to have conversations about the course, for you to share your own personal experiences and real world activities related to real world news events related to what we're talking about in the class, for you to ask and answer all of your questions in Yellowdig, and to, generally be involved in this discussion. My role as the instructor is to be present in this community. This community is important to me. It should be important to you. However, I don't anticipate posting regular basis all the time or commenting on everything that you do. I will, however, jump in when I feel like it or when I think I can add to the conversation, or if I have something I want to share about the course process. I will also award accolades for certain types of outstanding posts and comments, so that you can all see what I'm looking for. And your role is to earn your Yellowdig points, to do a good job of having a respectful discussion with your peers about the various topics that we're talking about, and frankly, to learn from each other. And let's have a little bit of fun. And something like that, it's brief and they understand what the purpose is, and they know that you're going to be there as well, which can be really important to them. All right.
Considering where we are in the semester, I think there's a couple of things that I had on my mind that I think can really help people get better outcomes. Hopefully without adding very much or anything to their workload, maybe even saving them some time depending on what they're currently doing. So, Bob specifically mentioned accolades, and those you can configure. You can see a couple on the screen right here on this first post. But you can kind of name them whatever you want. You can make them worth a certain number of points. From a research perspective, what we've been finding is that putting a few accolades per week onto those posts that you really want students to emulate, you want them to use those as a model for how they should be behaving in the platform. Not only does a lot to keep those students engaged, gives like a clear idea of what those students should be doing. It also is highly visible to students, right? So they know that you're there and that you've done it. So in terms of building instructor presence, giving those accolades is a really fast, easy way to encourage more of the kind of behavior that you want to see and to let your students know that you're there and paying attention to what's going on. So what we've been finding is, giving out about 1,000 points in accolades if your course expectation is about 1,000 per week per student is about the right amount. That amounts in most cases to sort of a handful to 10, depending on the size of your course. I always recommend from a sort of gamification perspective and a motivation perspective, putting these on a small number that you really want students to kind of pay attention to and emulate. Don't put it on every single post. They lose their specialness if you do that. But definitely do a certain amount of it. Our data is pretty clear that at least a few per week can make a huge difference and really shouldn't take very much time at all to do.
And just in case you were unfamiliar, you can award accolades to any post or any comment simply by going to this little menu of icons beneath every post or comment. The second one is always going to be manage accolades. And with basically one click, you can add those points and let students know that's what you're looking for, and that's the kind of behavior they should be striving to obtain, to create. Excuse me.
And the accolades can be used as filters. So we've seen instructors do some interesting things with them, like accolade posts that they want to make like fair game for a test, right? If they want to say, hey, I'm going to ask questions or a question from one of these 5 posts, they've done accolades like that. They can work really well in a lot of different ways, but with the filtering capability, if there's any specific content you ever want to flag, you can name and accolade that and do it as well. And they don't have to be worth points. So you can even give a 0-point accolade as a way to just highlight content that you think is really good.
So we've only got about a little less than 10 minutes left. One thing that I thought might be worthwhile, especially before people start filing towards the door, is to mention our upcoming series on Let's Dig Deeper. You want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do with those?
Yeah, so we're planning basically 4 sessions that are arranged around how to get the best outcomes. So I guess what I just did with the accolades there is maybe a little sneak preview of what that session is going to look like. But what we find in support and as community success consultants is that sometimes people are missing really high impact ways to manage their community and make meaningful impacts on steering it. And are maybe kind of spending their time in other cases doing things that are time consuming and maybe not as otherwise important in terms of driving good student outcomes. So I think that session is going to be highly focused on those things that you can do while the course is running, or possibly change a little bit while the course is running. That's highly actionable for this semester. And those are kind of our goals: save you guys some time, get better outcomes for everybody, and have it be things that you can be doing on the fly right now.
And the first of those sessions is this Thursday, I believe, and you will probably be receiving some sort of notification as a Yellowdig user that allows you to register for that. And we hope to see it. And again, each of these sessions are designed to be the same thing, so you really only need to attend one when it's convenient. They're on different days of the week and mostly different times. So we hope you'll join us for one of those. I'm going to give a last call for any questions that anyone might have that you want to throw into the Q&A. If there's something that we haven't addressed that's important to you, we would be happy to help you out with that. And if not, I guess we'll thank you for joining us. Brian and I are happy to continue talking about various things in Yellowdig. In fact, want to make sure that you're aware of reminders. Students are getting reminders when they have not been in the platform for a particular period of time, depending on what you have set those up as. And you don't have to do anything for them to get reminders, but if you'd like to see who has not been in the platform for a particular period of time in Yellowdig for a particular period of time, you can click here and you'll see who's due to get a notification and who recently got a notification. When a student does get one of these notifications, they're going to be telling them, hey, there's something good in the platform that you should go and check out. There's a new post or a new comment or something that's going to be interesting for you. So come back in. These notifications are not tied to points, however, but it's a great way to sort of make sure the students remember that Yellowdig is going to be important to that. Anything you want to add, Brian? Or anything else you want to touch on before we adjourn for the day?
I think that we had everything on that list. I hope that everybody found this helpful. Yeah, if anybody has any last minute questions, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise,
thank you so much for coming. We hope to see you at next month. We hope you're actually doing okay with Yellowdig, but even if you are, please come back and let us know how it's going. Thanks again. I'm going to stop the recording, but Brian and I will stick around for a few minutes if anyone has any questions that they want to ask us after I've stopped the recording. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.